Hello, we're back again. This time we have a manual rack in front of us. This is the rebuild I was talking about. So this rack has 150-ish thousand miles on it. So that's not much. In the grand scheme of things for a manual rack, that is not much at all. But for a 1981 to 1990 Escort, that's more miles than one lone component can handle. Well, if you're here, it's probably because I've referred you here. But the reason for that is these manual racks do have one issue. Okay, over here on the passenger end, there is a bushing inside. This is an intact factory bushing. This is a rare sight. Usually these disappear and they're long gone. The reason for which is because this is a high petroleum type plastic, so it sits in a bath of grease like it should. Don't get me wrong, it needs all the grease it can get inside the rack, but this plastic is incompatible with that grease, so the grease just makes it break down. Furthermore, it breaks down from age. Furthermore, on top of that, it's a crummy designed bushing, so as such it actually cracks upon installation. So this bushing is supposed to be inside the top here, and you can actually see that's one of the three keyholes. That's a second one. There's a third one over here. So this plastic bushing is supposed to be far enough down in this direction, like such, that the three little tangs will hang out those keyholes. You can see that one's all chewed up from me removing it. That one, again, is all chewed up from me removing. This one was missing when I went to remove this anyway. You can see this one is actually split. They're not supposed to be like this, but you can see how flexible the plastic is. It's me giving minor manipulation with my fingers. These are just crummy all across the board, and you can see a hairline crack developing on the other side. Now, why do they do that? Well, like I said, it's just the plastic they use is incompatible with the grease that they use. Is there a combination of grease that would work with these? Possibly, but there's an additional issue at hand. Now, a buddy of mine, Danny, big Escort collector, he has changed out one of these bushings, and him and I had chatted a bunch because he was having issues with his steering rack, and I said, well, I know what's prone to these manual ones, man. The internal bushing, so again, not the external rubber hanger bushings, no, not those guys. The internal plastic bushing, that one, they do die with age, and by the time you know that they're worn out, you look inside and they're nowhere to be found. So he looks inside, yep, his is long gone. So, now, everyone always asks me, what do you do for a solution? Well, I go to the hardware store and I buy a couple of pieces of PVC, and then I machine them down to fit, and I call it good, because these are a very hardy plastic that actually lubricate well even when just dry, and they don't seem to break down in any form of, grease or oils that you would be putting in here at least. So I'm quite fond of these, but a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend $2 in plastic and then 10 minutes on the with a grinding wheel and a cutter, and I just don't know, it just seems like a lot of work for a half-ass solution. Well, bear in mind, I did this in my blue car 25,000 miles later. It's still tight as can be. The last time I had the engine out, I took the boot off, looked inside, it's still perfectly fine. I don't have any play or anything. 25,000 miles on one of these, you're going to have play. So he goes out and he actually finds one or two of these new old stock in a little Ford baggie. They're brand new. So when they're brand new, they're a slightly different color. They're kind of they're yellow with like clear tint, kind of like what you'd see like roller wheels for skateboards or rollerblades, like that. It's you can almost see through it, almost translucent. But you can see that they are oblonged in 3 sides, and that is a lot of the problem here. You can see that there's 3 splined sides and then 3 flat cutaways. So when you actually go and install this into the tube, these 3 spline sections, they crush inward, and the 3 flat spaces that, well, since they're flat, they're narrower, they pinch out. So then you have this 3-sided triangle bushing around a round object, so it's not offering all that much support. It wouldn't be much better than me going in there and welding pliers in like this. You would actually get 4 points of contact that way instead of just the 3. So as soon as he installs it, he notes that, and then he says that I think he said that it was trying to split on one of the sides, or it did split all the way down. These are supposed to be whole units that aren't split. As such, when it's time to change them, you have to remove the tie rods, the tie rods themselves, not just the ends, the inners. And I said, well, I'm not all that surprised, because in the photos, this looks a lot bigger than it's supposed to be. But it does slip in there, and it fits around the inner tube fine. But like I said, it's only 3 points of contact, and it fits around the outside tube great. I can't lie, it fits around the steel tube perfectly fine. And with the 3 teeth, once you get it into its 3 spots, it's great. But you know, I believe the teeth are part of the problem. I'm sure it's designed in the shape so that the 3 walls can flex in, and then you can fit your 3 teeth through there. But that just does not pass mustard in my book. We want a nice secure fit. So I go out, pick up a couple pieces of conduit. Okay, and before I do, I get a micrometer on the diameter of the steel rack rod itself, and then I get one of the steel tube inner diameter. Steel rack rod, it's identical to this. You can see I can stick it on the threaded portion, which is the same diameter as the shaft portion. It's just right now there's a shoulder on here I have to cut off. But just around the threaded portion, you can see there's practically 0 play. There's enough for me to turn it, but it's not so tight that I can't remove it. I can push it on and off all day long like this, and it's just snug. That's how we need it to be. It needs to be snug to the center tube, or center shaft rack, but then tight to the outer tube. So then I find a piece of conduit that can fit around this. So my combination from my local hardware store. No, I'm not going to say, well, this pipe fits and this one doesn't, because the manufacturer of these change these all the time. So even if for some reason each store had this exact brand and SKU number for this exact part that you see right here in the camera, that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect for you. There is plenty of variance. I mean, you know, anyone who's done construction knows that in the world of standard units for measuring in construction, plumbing, electrical, yada yada yada, there is no actual standard. Manufacturers play real loose with that crap, and as long as their stuff fits their stuff, they don't give a darn. So my inside one here, that happens to work great. So we're going to cut off the shoulder on the inside, and I'm going to cut off, or grind off, I should say, the 6-sided head, because I won't need to have any kind of threaded access. But it sits inside this coupler, which I had already cut in half, because I had already used this combination on another rack. So 1 coupler and 2 of these kind of down adapters will serve 2 racks. So, but $385 at the local hardware store, and I fixed 2 racks. Can't put a price on that. So same thing going on here with the coupler though. There is a shoulder, and I'll have to remove that. But otherwise, once I'm all good, these 2 will get slid together all the way. I'm not going to do that now, because right now I need them apart so I can trim them up the way I need easier. But push them together all the way, and then I slide it. First, I stick the rack shaft further out the guy, like so. So then when this is fully assembled, I can stick it all the way down up against the tube, and then I can kind of gauge, okay, yep, I'll have to remove about 2 millimeters of thickness off of this tube, and then we'll have a nice snug fit. So I go over to the grinding wheel. I do that. I try to do it as even as I can all the way around. I stick it down inside until it's nice and tight. Again, we want it snug to the rack and tight to the tube. That's the combination we're looking for, because you know that shaft is going to keep moving, but the tube is not. We want this fixed to the tube and only snug on the rack. We're only here to provide support for this. We're not here to act as, you know, some sort of funky bearing. Just a supportive bushing. So that's how you go about doing it. I've had people write me about this repair, and I've been able to help diagnose that yes, you have rack issues. You have a manual rack, and your right side, as you drive down the road, it does this, depending on whether you're accelerating or decelerating. Because, if you can imagine, so we got this mounted vertically in our car. As you accelerate and decelerate, the wheel tries cocking back and forth, and it'll make this cock back and forth. And it will be particularly worse when the steering wheel is, you know, straight. So when your wheels are straight, or when you're turning hard left, you'll see this thing move about a lot. But you will notice it the least, or I think you'll notice it the least when you're turning all the way to the right. I might have that backwards. There is some geometry involved with what exactly happens when this goes bad. But just know that if you can grab your inner tie rod here, and if you can wiggle that about, it could be the inner tie rod, but more than likely you slide the boot back, and it's only going to be on the passenger side, and that bushing is toast. So you can go and replace it and do what I did. But I've had people visit machinists, and they make these out of like Delrin or high nylon content, all sorts of whatever blends of plastic they prefer, and that's perfectly fine. That's very long-lasting stuff when a machinist does it and knows what he's doing, and the fit's going to be amazing. But I gotta say, the job I do, I gotta rate it 9.9 out of 10. The only way it could be better is if I didn't have to do all, you know, the 10 minutes of work. This video, it's longer than the work I've had to do to this, but it would be cool if I could buy just a drop-in solution. Now, I will put the dimensions of each of these in the description, because, say for instance, someone was really hard on the clamp for this passenger boot, and they had, you know, crumpled up the tube a little bit. These measurements will be handy in making sure that yours is perfectly round, so that when you go out and get some PVC type plastics for your bushing, it actually fits worth a darn. And there was a change in racks at some point. I did my manual rack for an 83 that happened to have a different inner and outer diameter than this 81 rack, or I'm pretty sure at least. But like I said, I'll have the dimensions for each inside the description, so you know that, okay, if I have an 86, these are the dimensions that I need to be abiding. And if I have an 82, okay, these are the dimensions I need to be abiding by. That way I can help you the best I can. You know, I can't go out and fetch these for you. But if you want, I can start creating these. But I can only guarantee the fit is perfect if you are test fitting it between grind attempts. So please also keep that in mind. So once you have this all ready to go, just put as much grease inside the tube as you can. Slide this on. Put a little bit of grease on this end of the bushing, so that you got some inside the bellows, and then you're able to go about your business. I know you're going to ask, yes, you can actually do all this from inside the car. That's not a problem at all. Depending on how much other stuff you have in your car, like if you have all the factory coolant lines, it can be kind of difficult. By kind of difficult, it can kind of suck. But otherwise, if you've gone and removed all those at some other point in time, good for you. That's great. You will thank yourself later. I'm thanking you now. You're making me sweat just thinking about it. For those of you who haven't done it yet, but eliminating some of the junk in the way will go a long way in making this fast, easy thing. When I rebuilt, or I say rebuilt, when I changed out this bushing and that silver EXP, I did it all in car. When we did it in my blue EXP over there, it's right in front of the silver EXP actually. We did it all in car. But I'm doing this one here out of the car. It's going to be a little bit more easy actually, because I walk this over to my grind wheel, and I'll be able to get this done in half the amount of time because I won't have to walk back and forth. That's half of the time, just walking. And that's how easy this stuff is. So we're going to close the video off here and go on to it. Pro related tip: the tie rods. Remember how I said the racks vary by year? The inner tie rods do as well. If you have an 81 or 82, it's going to be different than 83 on up. I think there was even a change around 86, but I might be wrong. I don't have a manual rack for one of those, sadly. But someday that might change. But that's everything you need to know. If I find a part number for this, I will let you guys know. In the meantime, I'm going to hold on to it because it has some dimensions. But if you do have one of these intact, it's just amazing how sloppy and crappy that is compared to what you can do with 2 pieces of PVC from the hardware store. Yeah, so this one goes out to all you guys shaking your head at me using PVC from the hardware store. I'm not into hackery either, but hey, this works, and honestly, this is what your machinist is going to do, but charge you $50 an hour for. So why not do it yourself? Alrighty, with that said, I'm going to get up and get cracking. We'll see you guys later.